Hello there. Welcome to another episode of the 4Q podcast. I'm so happy you've landed here today. So before we jump in, I just wanted to remind some of you that we have some one-on-one consultations available if you're ready to do that. Please keep your eye out for Wild Ocean Co., our membership. So for those who want to have the tools to work on themselves at their own pace while connecting with other people doing the same and having a group of women who you can go, hey, I brought this up to my husband and this was his response. Has anybody else had that? Or, saying like, I tried to implement this parenting strategy and I'm finding like I'm so exhausted. Does anybody else feel like that? Like, this is what this group is for. So not only do you get the tools to start implementing things in your mindset, relationships and parenting, but you'll also have a community of women to do that with. So please keep your eye out for that, because we are going to be relaunching Wild Ocean Co. membership, the second launch, very, very soon. For those who are listening at this time, which is, June 2021. And then, of course, so we've got our one-on-one consults open again. We had them closed for a while, a Wild Ocean Co. membership, and of course, our retreats. The Life Reset Retreat is just it's sponsoring this episode because it is going to be such an amazing time. This retreat, it's like hitting the pause and reset when you just are like, I'm lost, I'm unclear, I just don't know like my life anymore. It feels like life's controlling me instead of me controlling my life. Like, I want to work on my mindset, I want to get it, and I want it fast. It's like months worth of therapy in a weekend, right? So just come along. Check it out on our website. The cost is extremely reasonable because we are trying to get this thing happening for you. So we want to keep it, fresh for you so that you can experience what it's going to be like before we have it at our normal price. So please check that out at savasanacollective.com. And I'm not going to talk anymore. Let's get into the episode about perfectionism, episode 37 on perfectionism. Hey, I'm Sheena Shuey. I'm a registered social worker and host of the 4Q podcast. I'm passionate about normalizing, not pathologizing life, and that's not easy. So each episode, I have amazing guests on to share the messy, beautiful ups and downs of life in 4 key questions with tips and tricks along the way. There are moments in life where you can embrace your story and understand that it's okay not to feel okay sometimes. So let's get into it. This is the 4Q podcast. Perfectionism. The good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what we're going to be talking about this episode. So if we follow our 4R formula, the reflect, redefine, redesign, and realign, let's get into reflecting on perfectionism. What is it? And, how it shows up. Because I think a lot of people have this idea of what perfectionism is, and it's almost like a buzzword now. So I feel like we need to do a deep dive into it a little bit. So let's look at the good, the bad, and the ugly parts of perfectionism. So let's redefine this and all get clear, get on the same page about perfectionism. Okay, so perfectionism is anything where you might be a bit obsessive, a bit over the top, spend way too many hours, way too much time, more time than needed or necessary doing something, striving for a certain result or a certain idea, or just, again, perfection. This can show up in many, many different forms. So it can show up as being a perfectionist when it comes to your body. So, wanting the perfect body, striving at the gym, eating perfectly, all of those sorts of things. Everything that goes into having the perfect body. It can be about having the perfect house. So It's that perfectionism that can show up as cleaning, decluttering, constantly moving, changing, editing things. It's constantly going and going and going. And then again, perfectionism can show up in the workplace as something that, like, let's say you've got a project at work, or there's something that you're working on, or maybe it's notes that you're typing up, something that should take maybe a short amount of time, you're finding yourself spending excessive amounts of time, and there's sort of this drive about being the best or being perfect or being high achieving. Like, there's somewhat status tied into it as well. So what we know, like, again, so you can see here that perfectionism can show up in just so many different forms, and these are just a few examples that I've touched on. And so what some of the research shows us is, I guess, one of the bad things that comes with perfectionism is that it's societally rewarded. So again, it's not bad to have a clean house. It's not bad to take care of your body. It's not bad to want to achieve at work. We're not saying that. But when it goes to the extreme, when your worth is tied into it, so if you don't achieve that thing, you feel unworthy. If you don't have things perfectly in order, you feel anxious. If you don't have things a certain way, it stresses you out and you can't connect with your loved ones. You can't relax. It's like it consumes you, sort of thing. And you, excuse me, and you start to think about it more than what you should. Again, a task that might take 2 hours might take a perfectionist 4 hours because they're going over all the things and all the details, or a simple task might turn into a complex task, all those sorts of things. So like I said, one of the bad things about perfectionism is it is rewarded societally. So that worker who works overtime, that works to the extreme, works and works and works and achieves high results because of that work, that perfectionism loop is then rewarded. So it's really hard to get someone to pull on the brakes because they're seeing the results of their work. Same with if it comes to if you want the perfect body, you're working so hard, you're training at the gym, you're eating like crazy, and then people start commenting, wow, you look so great, wow this, wow that, blah, 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 you have so much discipline. Again, societally, it's rewarded. You're getting, your worth is getting tied up into this thing that you're trying to achieve. Same with, having the perfect house, the perfect, place. It's when people see it and they go, wow, like your place looks amazing. How do you do it? Again, it's being rewarded. And so you sort of get tied into this. And when we look at the core reasons around perfectionism, they do vary from person to person. But some of the themes we do see are just a lack of worthiness. I'm not good enough unless I achieve X, Y, Z. So, it's that hard thing of, I don't feel good enough, but hey, there's this one area of my life where people seem to give me praise and reward. So it might start off seemingly innocent, like maybe the workaholic, maybe they got like a little reward at work and it felt so good. They actually felt good enough, and maybe they hadn't received that kind of praise before in their life. Maybe they didn't have a household that was very praising or anything. So when they get praise at work, it rewards that perfectionistic sort of instinct, and they keep going. And you could see how that could be really toxic, and people could take advantage of that, which is really sad. So there's that not feeling good enough for some people. For other people, it is the opposite in that it's not that they didn't get praise for achievement growing up. It's actually the opposite in that they only got praise for achievement. So, for example, if you grew up in a household where you only got praise when you were achieving. So whether it's that, oh, you only got praise when you did well on your report card. You only got praise when you did well at sport. You only got praise when you tidied up or cleaned up or did your chores, like it ends up teaching you that you're only worthy when you've achieved something. You're not worthy all the time, that messaging. And so you've got type person A who never got praise. And so when they start getting praise for a certain area, they start to get perfectionistic about it because it's tied into I'm not good enough. Then you've got the other person who, again, similar, but I'm not good enough because I only achieve praise when I've done something. I'm not worthy without achieving. I'm not worthy just as being a human being. Okay. And then there's another type of person who gets perfectionistic, and this is a person that I don't belong. We do see this a lot if you're a person from a minority. So whether you're a person of color like myself, whether you're a woman in a male industry, whether you're, the token LGBTIQ plus A friend, like you're the only one in your group who's got that minority, whatever the minority is, when you're sort of the token person or you're not in the majority, you're already stepping into situations sort of on the back foot, feeling like you're not belonging, even if that's on an unconscious level. Like maybe you don't see that consciously, but it's unconscious to you. So that is showing up for you. And so when you step into these situations, there's this extra drive that you have to be extra good because, again, there's like a proving yourself thing. And again, it's rewarded because if you're, doing really well at work, doing really well in whatever situation it is that you're feeling, insecure about being yourself, then you get rewarded because you're doing so well. So if we're getting rewarded, we're achieving things, it's making us feel good, what is the bad part about perfectionism, you say? Well, I hate to break it to you, but our research shows us that people who have perfectionistic traits, it's actually a risk factor for suicide. So we know that perfectionism can lead to feelings of unworthiness and hopelessness and things like that. When you're trapped in a cycle and you don't know how to get out, that leads to hopelessness. And hopelessness is one of the key factors in predicting, if somebody is at risk of suicide. So it has a dark side. Perfectionism does have a dark side. So it's societally rewarded, but it has this very dark side. So what the gist of it is about, it's not changing who you are. If you generally are interested in work or working out or being healthy or taking care of your house, it's not going to the other extreme where you just neglect that area completely, but it's asking yourself, how can I just set boundaries around this in a healthy way so that, I don't have to spend 4 hours on a document that I should spend 2 hours on, Sometimes if you don't know what a reasonable amount of effort and time is to put on something, it can be worth just having a casual conversation with somebody else in that same, whether it's your workplace or, if you're, it's about your house or it's about your body, like somebody else who's interested in that, but you find isn't a perfectionist, and just say, oh, look, I've got this thing I'm going to do. How long do you reckon I should do that for? And just check it against yourself. If they say, oh, it should take you 2 hours, but you were going to spend 6 hours on it, try to see how much you can achieve in 2 hours. If it's the gym, how quickly should I see results? Or, how often should I be working out? All of those sorts of things. I think it's tricky because I do find the gym industry pushes perfection. So it's very hard to untie this. And same with corporates, they push perfection when it comes, they push workaholics, there is a reward for being a workaholic in a lot of corporates. So there's a societal level to it. But what I'm getting at is that you've got to find, well, let's go to the redesign. How do we address this? Redesigning your life so that we can address this. So it's fine. It's asking yourself, is my worth tied into this? Again, sometimes you can't see this for yourself. So you may need to chat with a coach or a therapist like myself around just exploring it a little bit more. Again, there could be some underlying triggers, some unresolved trauma, there's anxiety, stress, all of those things, your survival mechanisms. So, fight or flight, freeze or fawn. There's a lot of mechanisms that could be kicking in. So why are you constantly in survival mode? What is triggering you to live out of survival mode, which pushes you to push hard, right? So it's untying that. And then it's also asking yourself, what's one small way I could cut a corner? How can I cut a corner in this area and know that it's going to be okay? So, it's saying to yourself, I'm going to cut a corner. I know it's going to feel uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's also, saying, okay, I'm looking at this task. I know that I always tend to do things 10 out of 10 when it comes to this particular task. What would a 9 out of 10 look like? Can I do this to a level 8 out of 10? And really asking yourself, are people really going to notice if I did this 8 out of 10? Because most of the time when we work with perfectionists and they cut back on things, other people don't even notice. So they've built this thing up in their mind and it's definitely not the case, So it's just remembering that as well. It's like, how can I bring this back? And then, of course, like, again, we would cover this in coaching. And I think it's really important to do this with a coach or a counselor. But getting to the root of what is important to you. What is your ideal lifestyle looking like for you? And how I'm acting, does that lean towards the life that I'm creating, towards the person I want to be? Or is it actually moving me away from the person I want to be, away from the person, the lifestyle, the ideal day, the ideal week I'm trying to have? If you want to be someone who has great work-life balance, who, invests in family and friendships, invests in yourself, then how your actions, are they aligned with that or are they not? If your value is connection, if your value is empowerment, is this empowering you or is this not? Is this connecting you or disconnecting you? It's really taking that bigger look, that bigger approach at things. And so realign is that, how can I stay on track when I'm recovering from perfectionism? I think a big part of it is realizing the societal structures that reward this behavior and trying to untangle that. And then also, acknowledging, like, we do all love praise. For my love language, I'm a words of affirmation person. So I tend to hold on to praise quite a lot. And so if, we all want that. So how can I have that without being a perfectionist? Or what areas, reminding yourself that you are worthy in so many ways, you are good enough in so many ways, and really sort of asking yourself, I think a lot of people have this gratitude practice of things that you're grateful for, and it might be your bed, or it might be, the sunshine, the weather, or my kids, or whatever. But what we don't often do is actually practice gratefulness for ourselves. And that can be a really helpful practice for building self-worth, building self-esteem, building self-efficacy, is saying to yourself, I am grateful that I'm a resilient person. I am grateful that I'm a loving person. I am grateful that I'm a reliable person, etc., etc. Like, start to incorporate those gratefulness practice for yourself. Really start like noticing the good things in yourself. And again, I know I say this a lot, but for those new here or who haven't heard it, it is a practice. Every time you try a new strategy, it's a practice. I so often see people try things once or twice and it feels awkward, and so they just give it up. And the thing is, it's like you've got to push through. For those who aren't familiar, go to my post on my Instagram about what behavior change really looks like. It's like a pink background with a diagram on it, and that will help you get an idea of whenever you try a new strategy or something new, you have to keep in mind that it does feel really awkward at first. It feels strange. It feels uncomfortable. You're learning something new. You have to remember, it's like driving that car. Like, I don't know if anyone remembers what it's like to learn how to drive a manual car or an automatic car, whatever. When you are first learning, it feels so awkward. But with time, with practice, it becomes natural. And I'm sure for those of you who do drive now, it's completely on autopilot. I'm sure you've actually driven home and forgotten how you got there. Like, it is that ingrained in you. So remembering that if you're going to start practicing gratefulness, if you're going to start practicing cutting corners and practicing, putting your self-worth first, it is awkward at first. It does feel uncomfortable, but knowing that ahead of time, it will make it easier. So just sort of, you've got to push through the first couple of weeks of feeling awkward, and then you'll see the results. You go, oh my gosh, this is coming more natural now. This is part of my daily habits. This is great, and you see the results, and it just goes up exponentially. But the critical time is making it through that little dip where it feels awkward and strange. So let me know if this episode has been helpful for you. I really hope it has. I would love to connect with you. Tell me, do you relate to perfectionism? Procrastination is another thing of perfectionism that we didn't touch on today, but if you're interested in perfectionism and procrastination, send me a message on Instagram, email me, connect with me. It's crazy being a podcaster because I see the numbers. Like, after a podcast comes out, I see these numbers of people listening, but I don't see who they are, what they are, where they are, like who it could possibly be. So it's crazy to me that I've got this audience that, like I've got you. You are here listening to me right now, and that time is so precious. You're giving your time and your energy to me, and I hope that these podcasts fill you up, make you feel like you're not alone, make you feel like we all have these things going on and it's not just us. There's so many societal things that make us feel shit, quite frankly, and we need to reconnect and normalize feeling like shit sometimes, because otherwise we're always going to blame ourselves, and we need to start looking at, well, what's going on societally making us feel this way? And when we do that, it stops pathologizing us. Life can be hard sometimes. We don't need medication for that. We don't need to make it out like we're broken somehow. Life is hard. It really is. And so I hope that these podcasts make you realize, like, if you're having a bad day or not, or maybe it's been a while since you felt bad because you're implementing some of the strategies that we've talked about, I really hope that whatever it is that you're getting from this, like, I just appreciate you being here. And if there's something more that I could give for your journey, I am been there. I am there. There's parts of my life that are going great right now, and there's parts that aren't. And that's life. That's normal. I think there's this false idea sometimes that therapists have their shit together completely 100% of the time. And it's like, no person does. But when we learn strategies, the right strategies, and we understand the dysfunction in the world, then we can go, okay, I understand what's happening for me. And what happens is, yeah, we still have shit times, but they don't last as long and they're not as often. we start to be more picky about who do I let into my life. You notice toxic signs in others. You notice red flags in others. As I've said so often, as you take these knowledge and these strategies and you change, your circle changes, your life changes. And I'm just so happy and so excited to share that with you. I think that's just so powerful. So again, if there's anything I can give you, if there's any podcast episodes you want to talk about, if you want to connect on some level, like please email, please send me a message on Instagram. That's kind of on social media land. That's my main hangout. I'd love to connect. So have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, whatever time it is you're listening to this. I so appreciate you. And I want you to know that you're 100% worth this time. You're 100% worth putting in the time and effort in yourself. And I'm so glad that you're on this journey, because even listening to this podcast, it means that you're doing something for you. You're trying to better yourself. And that's all we need in this world, for a better world, right? Is people improving themselves. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for being here with me, and I will see you next time on the 4Q podcast. Bye for now.